Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is 3 p.m. here in Guttenberg, Iowa, coming to you live from the basement. We're going to do another Monday Mukbang today. Welcome, everybody. It is June 8th, 2020. I think I got that right. But the mukbang for today, and mukbang, for those of you guys who don't know, it's just when I get on the internet, not just me, but when people get on the internet and eat stuff, usually it's large quantities of things is kind of like the expectation. I'm going to take a little bit of a break from that because of my current situation. We're in Iowa, kind of in quarantine, not because of anything, but just because we're thinking about reconfiguring our bubble, like doing like I think they call them double bubbles, when you have like two families that are gonna like hang out together. And that's what we're thinking about doing. We may. It depends. There's a couple of things that are into it, go into the considerations, but we may end up moving in with my in-laws for a little bit, or at least for the rest of the summer, for a part of the summer, to hang out. So we're kind of here and not really doing grocery shopping or anything like that. So I kind of have to like look around at the stuff that we brought from Chicago and figure out what I can eat on camera today. And one thing I thought would work is this. It's from Skratch Labs, and I know I put Skratch in the last like sports drink mukbang, but this one is a surprise to me because I really like it, and I normally like don't like things that are tea flavored, just because it seems kind of gimmicky to me, and it always just seems they taste really like floral, and I don't like flower tasting things. I think I had bad experiences with them. Like, actually, going back to like my time in Korea, like when the last time I visited was a really long time ago. But I remember there, people would give me gum, and this was when I was like not much older than how old my daughter is now. But people would give you gum, and it'd be from Lotte, Lotte is the company, and you would think, oh, okay, this is gonna be like juicy fruit or like spearmint gum or like something else like that I'm used to, or I was used to at the time. And then you would eat it and it would taste like an old lady's perfume or potpourri or something weird like that. Ever since then, I don't like things that taste flowery, and I feel like a lot of tea drinks do. But this one doesn't. I actually really like it. So I thought I'd taste it and drink it for you guys on camera today. So what I've done is I don't normally I did ball jars the last time, but actually all the ball jars that are in this place are used for actual canning and preserving, so I don't want to use that for this. So I took like an empty Gatorade bottle. I'm not putting Gatorade in it, but I wanted to have something clear for you guys to look at. Put some water in there, some ice, and then we're gonna get this thing open. It opens up relatively easily, but I've had this problem every time I open up these Skratch Labs. It looks like I've opened this properly, and like the powder's ready to flow out, but like there's only a tiny little hole at the top here where powder can come out, and so it's going to take a little while to get everything in there, but we'll get it all in there. While we're doing that, let's see. It's like clogged up. Who else is here? We got Bert Legasis here, Nathan N coming in from Oahu, cool. Charlie Gunn and Patrick Vaughn, good to see you again. Patrick, I've been seeing you in the Kofuzi Run Club, the Strava group. That's cool. Ed Bud's here, awesome, good to see you. Martha's here as well, and we got Catherine AM from Montreal, cool. She's on her third math run, not very exciting, boring actually. That's for sure. That's the way math goes. But more volume than ever and way less exertion. I'll stick with it. Yeah, I mean, like if you like running, then math is good and bad for you if you really like running, because it changes the way you have to run quite a bit. So we got all the powder in there. It's a little bit gunked up in the bottom. There is an ice machine, in the fridge here, which I just love. At home in Chicago, we do not have an ice maker, so we have to like refill our ice trays like it's 1990 and or even before then. Although that fridge is super old and it has an ice maker in it. So anyway, there's an ice machine in there and I'm just loving it. Normally I just drink everything like kind of room temperature because I hate refilling the ice trays, but yeah, it's been nice to have that. So this is the color of it, very green. And it just tastes really nice. It's really good. You're getting like, it doesn't taste like green tea, so I'm not tasting like matcha green tea. It just tastes like kind of like a very mild or like a refined version of like, I remember I just like Snapple teas. Remember when Snapple teas were huge? That might be dating me. They still make Snapple, right? But let's see. Do they make Snapple? Let me look that up. Let's look that up real quick. Since we got this new feature up here where we could look up things. Snapple. Oh, look. So let's do this so you guys can see the browser. Yeah. How come you guys aren't seeing it that well? Let's squish it. Is that better? Yeah. So now we got, so Snapple's still a thing. Like you can still get it. But I remember when like there was just regular Snapple and then Peach came out and it was just like, whoa, it was like revolutionary, changed my world. But it kind of reminds me of like that taste, but a lot like milder, a little bit more subtle. And there is sugar in here because it is a sports drink, but it's 20. I mean, basically when I look at the ingredient list for this Skratch Labs, you're basically getting salt and sugar. And that's pretty much all that you're getting in here. There's no potassium, there's no magnesium. There's a little bit of magnesium in here. But it's basically just sugar and salt, which is okay. But I've been kind of just drinking these like as just sugary drinks to have. I usually try to limit my sugary drinks, but in the summertime, you know, it's nice to have this around. So I've been really enjoying it. Ed Chance says, Peach Snapple FTW, my favorite drink when I was like 14. Yeah. So you're probably somewhere close to my age because I just remember like that was the thing. I remember they used to sell them at our school. And so you could get them at like the cafeteria and at lunchtime. This was before, because I went to high school in the age, I think there might have been vending machines, but I think that's still the case, right? But they're usually like unplugged. You can't like get to them until like after hours or something like that. But there really weren't like vending machines. So like you had to like you could buy stuff like in the morning and you could buy stuff at lunch. And that was about it until like the end of the school day. But like Snapple was like the thing that everyone had. It was like, well, that's a bit of nostalgia there. But that's what I love about like these live streams is to kind of chase those rabbit holes down that don't fit into any kind of running video. But I just love going into some of this older stuff. All right. Shannon Sides is here. Hi, what's going on, Shanonymous? Ty Mayat says, first live stream in person. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming by. Thanks for joining. Glad to have you here. Let's see. The kid is all right says, I don't remember Snapple because of the wide word printed inside the caps. See, there's a little bit of like, it's spilling. Oh, I just spilled a whole bunch all over myself. But it's not completely dissolved, probably because it's so cold with the ice. I've made a mess down in here. I've poured this stuff all in my crotch. So that's not great. I'm going to have to clean that up later. But the drink is delicious. Yeah, so I mean, it just kind of reminds me of that. Very nice. But what's interesting now is there was Snapple, and then Snapple got taken over by Arizona iced teas. Remember that? And then that got huge. And what's interesting is I think that's still pretty popular because my nieces and nephews will drink like they make the tall cans now, or they've been making the tall cans. But like those have like really crazy designs on them. Very similar. It reminds me a lot of like craft brewery, like in the kind of design motifs that those cans have. But there's a lot of that stuff going on now. So I know that the iced tea is still a popular drink. But that was a weird meander. But I guess today's subject is iced tea. So it all fits. And then like I remember Southerners trying to tell me about like sweet tea and how it's like very different from everything and how it's like this like magical, mystical, like regional, and I love regional foods, regional thing. And so like, you know, I had someone, I forget where I was, where I had sweet tea, and no offense to Southerners, but I was just underwhelmed by it a little bit. I think that there's a bit of like nostalgia and like, you know, you grew up drinking it kind of thing to it. I think there's a lot of like connection to time, place, and people that goes on with sweet tea. I think there's a lot of ritual to it that I am not privy to. And so when I drank it, it was like, it's a sweet drink. So, but there's, you know, there's an interesting nuance on tea culture here in the United States. And I think that now we're appreciating like tea, like real tea. But for the longest time, it's been like stuff like this. Luis Becerra says, congrats, Co. 1.1 thousand Strava followers. I think that's people in the group. Yeah, it's growing quickly. We'll take a look at the numbers a little bit. Ty Myatt says, I love Arizona teas, $1 menu. Yeah, like the price is right. Price is right. Alex Pham says, I would always get Arizona green tea from the liquor store under my tutor. Super Schmaltz says, oh, Arizona RX was my favorite for stress relief in college. I don't think I ever had that one. Peace tea, that is a bit, yeah, that's a big one. That's true. Kiefer Vacation says the real deal was flipping the Snapple over and hitting it with your palm so it made the knocking noise. I still do that. I do that with whenever I open a bottle of anything. I do that when I open a bottle of iced tea, like when I've had I think I've had Snapple somewhere recently, I think, or some sort of bottled tea. I don't think it was Snapple, but I do that with that. I do that with spaghetti sauce. I do that with like a jar of anything, anything that comes in a glass jar. I'll smack the bottom of it and get that like noise. I don't know what that does, but I do it. Does anyone know it? It doesn't do anything. Does anyone know what that does? I don't know. Tryboy Try says, I have bags of the green tea scratch powder. They are great for long bike rides. Yeah, I haven't had this yet on a run, but I've had this twice now, just like at home. And it's just very pleasant to have drinking. And I was looking at it, comparing it to like, say, Gatorade. So let's say like you wanted to have Gatorade, and my wife bought a whole bunch of it because the girls kind of like it. And we don't want to give them, again, too many sugary drinks. Sorry, there's just spilled tea everywhere. So we don't want to give them too much of it, but like, we were thinking like we want to have supplies. We don't want them to get bored of stuff to the extent we can buy some stuff ahead of time. So we bought a whole bunch of this Gatorade, and the Gatorade has 36 grams of sugars. And like Gatorade, I feel like it's borderline a sports drink anymore, right? Because I just feel like it's like high C. I kind of put it in that category. It's like it's got sugar in it, but so does like soda, So I don't really consider it a sports drink. This has less sugar than like a Gatorade, at least for this bottle, for this size, this amount. And so I guess you could make the Skratch more concentrated. But I also like that it's like 20 grams is a good amount. I like 20 grams. It's a nice round number for me in terms of doing mental math, trying to figure out how much sugars I'm taking in over the course of a run. If it were something weird like 36, which is this bottle of Gatorade, then I have to be like, well, I like to have 20 every so often, so then you have to do a little bit more math. So, Ty Maya says, well, doesn't like sweet tea, my first and last live stream. Oh, well, that's funny. It's no offense to it, but I do think that there is something to it that I don't have as a northerner, as an East Coaster from growing up, and then as a Midwestern northerner, that I don't have an experience to make the sweet tea as special as it is for people that grew up drinking sweet tea. Pia Johnson says, hey, Kofuzi, are you still putting miles in the New Balance Tempos? I haven't been lately, and my bag of shoes is over there. I don't know that I brought them with me. They might not have made the trip. So I'm afraid not lately. If I have them with me, they'll get woven into the rotation, but I'm not sure that I have them with me. Kurt Steges here. What's going on? Good to see you. Let's see. Kurt says he did the Snapple thing too. Yeah, all the time. Nathan N says by hitting the bottom of the jar, it relieves the pressure in the bottom of the jar. I think that makes it like easier to open, right? Is that what it is? I always thought that was like a nice way of like mixing the contents too. But I also just like the sound. There's like something about that sound that's very pleasant. And then it goes, you tap it, tap, 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 and it like pops open, right? So it's like, it's a nice rhythm. I don't know. Arnold Alanis says that's so good. Yeah, it is really good. Like the Skratch, I think like the flavors and the taste of everything that I've had from them are really good. And I feel like they should just make drinks. I mean, they can market them as sports drinks as well, but I think they should just make them. Like kind of like Gatorade just makes drinks. Like, I mean, do people really think of Gatorade as like a real like legit sports drink anymore? There's like Gatorade Zero, there's the G something drink, and then there's like the Iceberg and then the Frost, and I don't know, there's just so much. I feel like it's kind of like, I mean, to an extent, maybe not quite as bad, but I feel like they may, at some point, they became like the Zubas of sports drinks, I think. I don't know. There's just too much of it. Yeah. Let's see. Christian says, do you think you'll do a review of the Ultra Pavision? I will definitely run in at least one more Ultra shoe this year. I don't know if it'll be the Pavision. I've never heard of it. I'm not that well versed in the Ultra lineup. I don't know if that'll be it, but I don't know if I'll look for something that's like a light trail shoe because there's so many dirt roads around here. I might do that, because I also feel like Ultra and their like trail shoes is probably their strong suit. So I'm thinking that that might be a better way to like dive further into the brand and get a better sense of what they're doing. Chimp named Needed is in here. Says, "Go have fun with that breaker box behind. Keep the family on their toes." You know, like this is a very old house, and every once in a while the lights will kind of like flicker down and come back up, and we're like, "What did we do?" Because we'll just be sitting there and we'll have some lights on, but it's not like we're doing a ton. And you know, we've only had the air conditioning on here, like there's central air, but we've only had it on like sporadically. So it's like I just think that like it's kind of like the Wi-Fi router. Like it does what it does for a while, and then it just kind of gets tired and needs to take a break. And I think that's what the breaker box does too. The other thing that I've noticed, and I don't know why, I suspect it's because this is a bigger, like square footage wise, it's bigger. And maybe we're like as a family spreading apart a little bit more like physically. But like the girls at night are constantly turning on lights. I find myself like walking around the house all night long, just turning lights off. Every time I get up, I'm like, why are the lights on in this hallway? No one's going in there right now. So I'll just turn them all off and I'll walk around the house, turn off all the lights. And then like, it'll be like on the other side of the house, I'll turn off a light. And then I think the girls hear the light switch go and they'll be like, "Dad, I need that light." And so I just don't know what it is. It's like so strange. I think in Chicago, we have such a small place that like, you know, the few number of lights that we have illuminate like the entire space. So it's like, we're fine. We're also closer. So we're like on top of each other, but so I don't know what it is, but like I'm aging while we're here because I'm just like, turn off the lights, make sure the windows are closed if you're going to turn on the air conditioning. So it's like, what commercials is that for? Is it like Progressive, the insurance commercials? Like that's happening as I'm here. Yeah. So, Ed Chan says, "You don't have to be sweaty," and because I love this because we'll see where it goes. He's quoting Mitch Hedberg, which I actually just made a Mitch Hedberg joke to my wife the other day, and I started it out and she finished it, so points for her. But Ed Chan says, quote, "You don't have to be sweaty and holding a basketball to enjoy Gatorade. You can just be a thirsty dude. Gatorade forgets about that demographic." Mitch Hedberg. That's pretty funny. We were driving and we had to return the rental car. So we had rented a car to get over here, and then we are going to be buying my mother-in-law's car because she was going to get a new car anyway, and she was going to trade hers in, but we're like, "Oh, we'll just buy that one off you." And so we were doing that car switch. And then my wife is like, "Hey, did you put the parking brake on when you parked that car?" So because we parked the rental car, kind of like in the grass, because in this Hertz like local location, they had a certain amount of parking spots, but it was full. So we just parked like in the driveway near it. And so we parked in the grass, and she's like, "Hey, did you put on the parking brake?" And I was like, I don't know. I didn't. I don't even know where that parking brake would be on that car. And she's like, "But I put the parking brake on it before you got in and drove it." So she's like, "You must have driven with it on the entire time." And it was like a 50-mile drive. And so I was like, well, that doesn't say a lot about me, but that also doesn't say a lot. But that says even less about the parking brake. And so I think that in that car, it's a Chrysler Pacifica. Either my wife didn't put on the parking brake properly, or it like knows to just disengage it if someone just starts driving. So hopefully it's smart and disengages, or my wife didn't actually engage it. But it's very possible that I just drove 50 miles in a car with the parking brake on. Yeah. The Kiddos All Right says, "Tailwind and Martin are my go-to hydration during runs, but Martin are expensive, so only use them while training for race." Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people feel too. I've been drinking Tailwind lately. That's what I've had in my hydration pack because I've been using the bladder and putting it in the pack behind me. And the one that I just had recently was Colorado. I think it's called Colorado Cola, and it was super. It's basically just, it tastes like flat Coca-Cola. And it tasted delicious, and it was actually really pleasant to have. I was like, I'm not going to like this, but I'll bring it for this run because I've got it and I'll taste it. But I actually ended up really enjoying it. And the weird thing was that when you mix it up, it's not brown, like the color of Coca-Cola, which it's so weird that that drink is brown. But I was really kind of weirded out, but it was kind of like a crystal Pepsi moment. It's like, why isn't this liquid brown? It's clear. And it wasn't clear, but it was not a dark color. But it was pretty good. So I've been enjoying the Tailwind as well. Cody Davis, you do not need a receipt for a donut. We do not need to bring paper into this transaction. More Mitch Hedberg jokes. You know, I saw Mitch Hedberg live. He came to my college. He came to Washington University when I was probably a sophomore or so, and it was amazing because half of the people there, and he played it. It was a real small audience. It might have been only like 200 or 300 people. And we were basically yelling his jokes at him. And he's like, you guys got to chill out with that. It's really throwing off my rhythm. Because he was probably way out of it because that's how he was. But it was really funny. And so we were like yelling his jokes at him, like telling him which ones to do. And he's like, wait, that joke's coming up later. And then the other time, kind of like the other half of the people were like heckling him, kind of funny. So we gave him a real hard time. I apologize for that. But it was fun. Mr. Random says, hello all. What brand do you think has the best overall lineup so far this year? I mean, it's hard to say because Hoka hasn't released most of their shoes yet this year. They're still kind of waiting, right? I think that, New Balance is having a really good year. I like the Fuel Cell TC. I haven't seen the RC yet. I'd like to be able to try that. The Tempo is a pretty good shoe. The 1080 V10, although I think that technically released in 2019, right, is a good shoe. So that's a good lineup, I think. But I think Saucony's probably having a better year. We'll see. Oh, Lulu712 says, I'm currently running in the Nike Zoom Elite 9 and probably need a new pair of shoes by the end of the year. Are you familiar with this shoe and what do you recommend to replace them? I'm not familiar with that shoe. That is a shoe that like the Zoom Elite 8 I meant to try. The Zoom Elite 9 I meant to try. And I was like, well, the Zoom Elite 10, I'll definitely try that one. And then they discontinued the shoe. So I'm jealous that you have a Zoom Elite 9 to run in. But I think probably the closest thing that Nike has to that would be maybe the Turbo. Because I don't think it's the Zoom Fly. So I'm thinking the Turbo is probably closer to what you're looking for. The other thing that I might even consider is like the Zoom Streak LT. That might be a little bit more race oriented than what you're looking for, but that is probably something that I think is a little bit closer. Lewis Camera says, hey, showing up late. What hydration have I missed? I'm only doing the one today. I'm just doing the Skratch Labs green tea, matcha green tea with lemon. It's very tasty. Let's see what else we got here. Cody Davis says, he saw Mitch Hedberg in Orlando shortly before he passed. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, he had some really funny jokes. Like he had like not single-handedly, but I mean he was trying to revive the art of the one-liner joke, and he was doing a really good job of it. Rosser Run says, does rice go down easy during long runs? I don't know. I've never tried eating rice during a long run. I mean, I'm not an ultra runner, so I don't know that much. I'm very inexperienced with like eating during the middle of a very long run. So I don't know about that. TJM says, that's where it's coming from. TJM Run says rice. It's good when you're hungry and want 2,000 of something. Oh, these are great. I haven't heard these jokes in such a long time. Reed Morris says, still have a pair of the OG Zoom Fly with only 40-ish miles on them. Can't decide if I love them and will wear them again or hate them and should donate. Anyone running them? I think that like the original Zoom Fly had Lunar Lawn still, right? And so that one was not my favorite. of the Zoom Flies. I think that it is much better with React because it had Lunar Lawn with a carbon infused nylon plate or nibin infused carbon plate. It wasn't a carbon fiber plate. It was a carbon fiber-ish plate. And it wasn't React foam. So, I mean, I had a good time running. I had Zoomfly SPs. I had a good time running in those. I'd say, use them up. Or if you're not thrilled about them, donate them. Because I think they look great. I think someone else could probably definitely use them for sure. Super Schmaltz says, in terms of the light and me like constantly turning off lights everywhere I go now, is less ambient light where you're at. And I think so. I think that's part of it. The way, like in our house in Chicago, we have all like windows and we have southern and western exposures. And so like when the sun goes down, like we just get flooded with light. And even after like, in that like kind of twilight period, it's still relatively bright in our unit. But here there's, lots of trees around and there's bluffs on the west side. And so like when the sun goes down, it goes down relatively quickly. And so I think it's just getting darker, not faster because it's still summer, so it's staying light pretty late. But when it gets dark, I think it just gets dark and there isn't like ambient light from the street. Like not that there's tons coming into our unit on the where we are, but yeah, I don't know. I just whatever it is, they just love turning on all the lights. Let's see. Arnold Ellenis says, I don't understand Tailwind. How much water am I supposed to use for the individual use packet? Is it a pre-workout hydration drink? I think it can be used as pre-workout hydration drink. The instructions for Tailwind, I kind of like it. It just says mix with a large water bottle. And then there's a line in the middle of it that says pinch it here if you only want to use some of it. Because of the way that the packet is, it's kind of like if you want the whole thing, dump it out. But if you only want like to use some of the packet, pinch it in the middle so that way only part of it can pour out. And so it's it's intentionally imprecise, and I think that's fine because I think that you're thinking about like how much you have an idea of how much if you drank the whole amount, how much sugar and whatever else is in there you're getting, and then the amount of liquid is however much liquid you put in. And so you can adjust it to your taste. And I think it's not like you can't do that with other sport drinks either, but it's nice that, they're keeping that in mind when you do that. So you can put as much or as little as you want. I think the Tailwind is 50 grams of sugar is generally how much you get in a packet. So it's kind of like 2 of these and change, what you're getting. And so I like the Tailwind. And I think that's why it makes sense that they have that like line in the middle that you could pinch and only get half of it out. Because I think for, a shorter run, if I were only out for like if I'm only out for an hour, I might not bring water. But if I'm out for an hour and a half and I wanted to bring something to drink, I might have that in like a smaller handheld bottle. But I've been doing the Tailwind, mixing it with about like 30 ounces of liquid or so. And that keeps it relatively like diluted, and so it's not super strong of a flavor, which is nice because like if you're drinking it over the course of several hours, you don't want it to be like super sugary because sometimes when it's super like sugary, kind of like Gatorade, like it leaves that like film in your mouth sometimes. So I'm not a huge fan of that. But yeah, I mean you can use it as pre-workout as well to like really if you wanted to load yourself beforehand. I've been using it a little bit for carb loading the night before a run. So I'll drink a large amount of it, or I don't think I've been doing it with the Skratch. I think I've been doing it only with the Tailwind. I've been drinking like a bottle, like a quart, 32 ounces of it with a packet to get 50 extra grams of sugar in, kind of before I go to bed. So not a pre-workout, but night before workout. Omar asks, go-to running watch. Right now, my go-to is the Polar Grit X. It's a great watch. I've been really enjoying it. Cody Davis, let me get the steak fajita sub. Don't bother ringing it up. It's for a duck. More jokes. So funny. Matthew Lai says, anybody know what shoes I should get for everyday runs? I have no idea which ones to get, but I want a soft landing. Sorry that this isn't really on today's topic. That's okay. There's never really a topic for these things. It's kind of a free for all, and we're just hanging out. Um, I think that if you have like I think that if you don't know what you really want, and you want a soft landing, I would say start out with like the daily trainer in all the brands. So like for people that say I don't know about a soft landing, I'll probably point you towards the A6 Nova Blast, very soft. Um, the Adidas Solar Boost, pretty soft landing as well. It's a little bit heavier of a shoe. For New Balance, get the Beacon, not as soft of a landing, but very light. From Hoka, the Clifton 6 is what's out now. The 7 I don't think is going to come out now till August. So those are some options to look at. From Saucony, you can get the Kinvara. That's a nice one as well. So there's a couple of different ones, but I would say just look for the daily trainer in the brand. Omar says, is there a huge difference in accuracy between various GPS watches, i.e. Garmin versus Apple? I would say not really. It depends with Apple, though. The thing between so I think there's less of a difference between Garmin and Polar, for example, because I think those companies, I think they're all using the same GPS components. But my understanding is the way that the components are stacked inside in terms of spacing affects how well they transmit and receive information. And so there can be differences between the brands. But also within the brands, there can be differences between the different watches in the lineup. The main difference, I would say, the thing to watch out with Apple, though, is when the Apple Watch does its GPS, it's never clear to me whether, because if you run with the phone, whether the information you're getting is GPS data from your watch or GPS data from your phone. The problem with that being the phone's GPS data is not just GPS data, it's GPS plus like cell tower and Wi-Fi signal data. So if you run in an urban area, it's really, really off. It gets really crazy. If you're in an urban area, even regular GPS data can be off too, depending on how steep the urban canyons are. But that's where I get really concerned about the Apple Watch. What I like are apps on the Apple Watch that you can tell it just use the Apple Watch's GPS. And then I feel like the GPS tracings are just about comparable, roughly speaking. I'm sure there are differences. DC Rainmaker, coincidentally, would probably be the best person to look at for that kind of detailed testing. It's a little bit beyond my desire to be precise, but yeah, I think that they're all relatively close. Let's see. Martha had something in here that I wanted to get to. Oh, for real food on long runs, for me, that's only up to marathon training. Dates and pretzels work great. Tried once or twice just for a change. Oh, that sounds good. I like the idea of running and eating dried fruit for people that like eating. I used to eat a lot of the gummies, because I do kind of just like eating while running as well. But then I kept dropping them because I would just have Butterfingers and I would drop them. Let's see what else we got here. Bert says our local pharmacy now has Etix recovery powders and carb powders. Anyone tried them yet? I've never heard of that. I'm gonna have to take a look at that one. ETIXX, cool. Let's see. Vince Vandeper says just bought the Triumph 17, best shoe ever. That is a very nice shoe. It's and also a very soft landing on that one too. Some good recommendations here coming in. Barry Batsback says the Freedom, which is also a good shoe. Yeah, the 17 is a little bit heavier, but I've seen a lot of footage of, well, I guess Molly Seidel doesn't have footage of herself running in them so much as she posts a lot of pictures of them. She's gone through 6 or 7 pairs of them. And then Parker Stinson has been running in them a lot, and he's had footage of himself doing some fast long runs in the Triumph 17, which has been pretty impressive. Cody Davis says, I'm using the Peg 37 for every day. I only wish I went true to size instead of half a size bigger. Yeah, although I think that the 35 was super, super snug borderline like this was wrong. And then the 36 I felt like had it right. And I think the 37 is like somewhere like in the middle in terms of like the sizing. I feel like the 36 was a little bit more forgiving in terms of the sizing, or more correct in terms of the sizing. But yeah, I've been enjoying the 37. I've been running a lot lately out here, but it's like there's still so many shoes to run in. I'm doing my best to try to get to everything. Ryan Roberts says, looking for a hydration pack or a vest with bladder. Any suggestions would be great. For reference, distance 20 to 30K. So for that, I would really look for something that's super light, like in the race vest category. The ones that I like have space for a bladder in the back and also pockets all up here. So anything that you need to reach for really quickly, like gels or phone, or like if you need to get to like keys and like the whistle and all that stuff, all in the front. I like that. I don't like to have to dig around in the back for anything. So the one that I'm using now is a Camelback Zephyr. That is one that was provided to me for purpose of review, for disclosure purposes. But I do like that one quite a bit. And the Polar Watch as well was provided to me for review. But that one I've been enjoying. I don't know where to put the hose. So like that part's been kind of weird. But the other vest that I've really enjoyed, the one that I bought myself, was the Nathan Vaporcar 4. That one has space for the bladder in the back. It doesn't come with one though, so you have to get one separately. But it comes with 2 water bottles that sit up front, and it used to have the really tall straws on top. So basically, I could just run and turn over a little bit, and then like the water bottle would be right there. Those are really nice. They don't sell those anymore, so now I have to kind of pick up the thing a little bit or pull it out, and that's a little bit more difficult to do while running. But that is a good vest. I really like that one quite a bit. I think that it comes in different sizes, and I think that I got it. It fits me great in the winter, and in the summer, it just fits me a little bit too loose. So that's why I was looking for something else. Dre Coltree says, made my first attempt at math training today. It was easy but boring. Yep. Trying to decide if it's the best route for me in the long run. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to think about. And you'll have a lot of time to think about it on your math runs because they take a lot longer. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to kind of figure out. It took me a while to do it. Someone today commented on YouTube like, "Hey, I haven't been here in a while. Just wondering if you're still doing that math nonsense." And that was his literal words. And I'm just like, I don't know how to respond to that comment. Like, thanks for not having come back in a while and then insulting me. Cool. Welcome back. Manuel Hernandez says, would you have any recommendations for a max cushion road shoe? Girlfriend and I tried out the Clifton 6. It did not work out for her at all, and I seem to rarely use them about once a week. Well, if you're not liking the Clifton 6, then I would suggest switching away from Hoka for the max cushion. I would try my two favorites. My two favorite max cushion shoes right now are the Triumph 17, which we talked about a little bit today, and the 1080 V10 from New Balance. Those are the two that I would look at. Christine Boo says, are there any shoes you don't like? Or is the technology just so good that everything is good in the right situation? I would say that, there's a little bit of that, both of the things that you're saying. Any shoes that I don't like? What shoes don't I like? I'm trying to think. I didn't like the Hyperion Elite, but I think most people I think there's maybe a handful of people in the world that can run fast enough to really enjoy that shoe. So I didn't like that one. So that was just I just didn't get it. It hurt my feet. It hurt everything to run in that one. But that's also not one that's mass produced. I don't like the Brooks Ghost. And that may be an unpopular opinion, but that's one that is a very it sells well. Selling? It's a popular shoe. It sells. They sell a lot of units of it, but for whatever reason, I never really agreed with it. And the Ultra Boost 19, I didn't like that one at all. So there's a handful of shoes here and there that just I don't like. But for the most part, I also tend to buy kind of the flagship shoes or the higher end shoes from each brand. So it's kind of narrowing the field. I think that if I were shopping, um, kind of like how I would imagine like a lot of high school kids, like if their parents are going out and buying them their shoes, like a lot of those, I think there might be more that I don't like. Where you're making a few more compromises to hit price points, then I think there might be more that I don't like in that situation. Um, but I also think that in terms of like that everything is good in the right situation, I think that some shoes are better or more suited for different tasks. I like to think of them as either like golf clubs or like kitchen knives, like the right tool for the right job, kind of thing. And so there haven't been shoes where I'm like I just can't figure out when like I can't. There's never a shoe where I'm like I can't imagine, except for the Hyperion Elite, where I'm like there's no way that like the people that made the shoe are like this is great. People are just misunderstanding it. If they would only use it for this, then they would understand how great it is. There's not a lot of shoes where I feel like there's like that big of a disconnect. I think that there's a lot of times the right shoe used in the right way will make sense. But because I think it's a great time to be running, because a lot of like the midsole foams I think are really good right now. So. Mikhail Pichard says, I hurt myself very often and I test the Hoka Arahi 6. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. So let's see. Barry Back says, I want to try a shoe with lower drop for a better technique. Now I have Pegasus Turbo 1 and Zoomfly Flyknit. I'm thinking of Kinvara for interval and Freedom for longer. What's your advice? Yeah, I would say, I wouldn't worry too much about kind of like changing all your shoes so that way you can switch them all to a lower heel drop. I don't think that there's necessarily all that magical about the lower heel drop in and of itself. I think especially if you are concerned about your form, I'm assuming you're more concerned about your form at faster paces where you may not be like hitting your heel all that much, right? So the heel drop becomes less relevant the faster you're going. So, and I mentioned that because you're mentioning the Turbo and the Flyknit and the Kinvara, right? But I think that the Kinvara and the Freedom could be a good 1-2 punch. I think that I'd rather have, if I'm going to go with the 1-2, but I also don't know the heel drop of the Triumph offhand. The Triumph might be a taller heel drop, but I would prefer the Kinvara and the Triumph, but I think the Triumph might be a higher heel drop. So if you want to keep a lower heel drop, could be Kinvara and the Freedom, or Kinvara and you can go with a zero heel drop if you want to try that. I just did the Ultra Escalante video today, and I do like that shoe for longer distances and kind of like my easier, kind of like, most frequent paces. So that could be something else to consider. Reed Morris says, before watching running YouTube, he had the Peg 35. And then after watching 7 different shoes in the rotation. I mean, that sounds about right, but it's a great time to be running, and it's a lot of fun to have them, and it makes you run more. So, I feel like it's a win-win. All right, I think we're gonna get going soon here. The girls, we found the hose where the hose is, and it's getting hot. So we've been playing like with the sprinkler and like getting the water guns and stuff out. So they're very eager for that today. It's a little bit warm here, so I think I got some girls upstairs waiting on me, so that way I can take them outside. Esteban Gonzalez says, I hate turbos. Don't know why people love it so much. Too much ground contact. There is some ground contact to it, but I think that the Zoom X foam is so nice and squishy. People like that about it. And Cody Davis says, I think one of these Mondays there should be pizza involved. Well, yeah. So like if it's Monday Mukbang, I'm here in Iowa. Once we feel comfortable getting some takeout food, then I'm definitely going to be eating some taco pizza. Although like, I think I'll have to eat meat that day because I'm not going to ask for taco pizza without meat on it. So it'll be a dilemma. I might just have to eat meat that day, but we'll have to do some taco pizza for sure. I think that is the perfect place to end it. I started it on some drinks, but some of the green tea, ending it on pizza, talking about donuts and rice, and a lot of Mitch Hedberg jokes in the meantime. I thought it was fun today. Thanks everybody for showing up today and participating. You guys come in is what makes it awesome. Otherwise, it's just me rambling for the entire time, and I don't think any of us want that. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs and enjoying the summer weather where you are, or depending on where you are, the winter weather. I'll be back again tomorrow. We'll do Trivia Tuesday tomorrow, same time, 3 o'clock Central Time. And yeah, that's it for. See, did you guys see that? Did you guys see that? That was the lights. It just flickered. That's this box getting tired. So again, the universe telling me time to go. All right. Take care, everybody.